All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is your favorite warlock. It is your favorite necromancer. And you probably heard Skillet in the background playing on my phone. Love their greatest hits album. They've got a lot of good music, and I do like their music, even though they are a Christian band, which I had no clue of until about a year ago. So that kind of blew my mind. I thought they were this rebel rock and roll type band, but no. So, but yeah. So, anyways, just want to give a shout out to Skillet. Love their music, especially Monster, Invincible, Hero, Not Gonna Die Today. Love those songs. Love them. So, anyways, I want to talk to you a little bit about past orthodoxies. You know, a lot of people forget about the past. I think it's due to the brainwashing of subliminal messaging that you see on TV, on social media, through these social conditionings when you go to the workplace. Even if you go to your son's school, you see the same duality. And a lot of people forget that there's a little thing called equality. And it's funny because of the fact when you see parents bringing dogs onto school grounds, and yet the teachers come to you and boot your ass off the fucking campus because you have a dog, and allow these other parents to have their dogs on campus. It's forgetfulness of past orthodoxies. But when you get into religious perspectives, I think a lot of times people are too wrapped up in dogma, in drama, to realize that what they're doing is the exact same thing as the Judeo Christian institutions, just like the politicians. And I was talking with Arnold Schwarzenegger today and about his new upcoming book. And I went ahead and I pre ordered it. And the reason for that is because, like 50 Cents, the rapper turned business individual, you look at where he came from, you look at where he was to where he is now. I mean, this was a man that was a soldier, turned bodybuilder, turned successful actor, turned successful governor of California. And something he said always stuck with me. And that was the fact that there is no such thing as a self made man. You got to acknowledge the individuals that got you where you are today. This is also Stoic fact. Stoicism speaks to this as well. giving credit when credit is due, so to speak. 50 Cents, before he was known as a rapper, a business mogul, and yes, I just called him a mogul. And the reason for that is because I like the guy's music, love him. Business, I don't know too much about his business, but he's successful at it. So this guy was originally a street kid. You know, he always roamed the streets, tried to be a player, and then he got hooked into, let's just call it organized crime based, stuff, and started learning how to be a player, a real player, not this modern day BS, tough guy wannabe, attitude era, that you see today. No, I'm talking about the real deal. The Al Capone type practice. You're using charisma, you're using manners, the well, you know, dressed man, playing the part, playing the sheep dressed in wolf's clothing. That guy. But instead of taking advice from other people, he actually looked at things in a logical perspective. And he did what he always did, and he took it to the extremes. Even Robert Greene, who wrote the 48 Laws of Power and the 50 Laws of Power, the book 50 Laws of Power is a tribute to 50 Cents. And that's very self evident if you've ever read that book. And trust me, I've read every book that Robert Greene has put out so far, including the 50 Laws of Power. Incredible, especially when you start putting that to your life, applying that knowledge to your life. Very, very impressive. And when you start putting Stoicism into your life, you know, the coworker that wanted to be a baker, I actually looked at this from a perspective of 50 Cents because it was like this. He was a street kid, a punk, a wannabe who became a businessman in organized crime, so to speak, who became a rapper, rose above the normal statures, became successful as a rapper, who became a international or national businessman. And you look at where he's at today with his own company. You got to give the guy, his due. You got to give the guy his cred. You know what I'm saying? Just like you got to give Skillet their cred, because you look at where they came from. You look at what they've done. And the reason I chose to listen to Skillet tonight was because I was meditating upon this aspect, and I wouldn't be where I'm at if it wasn't for those that I refer to as idols, like Arnold Schwarzenegger, John Claude Van Damme, you know, Jackie Chan, Jet Li, Steven Seagal, even, you know, even Philip Ray. I don't know what happened to Philip Ray after Best of the Best Four. I lost track of him after that. But what do you expect? It was back in the 90s. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah. So I started looking at my own life. I started contemplating my own backstory, how my family basically tossed me aside because of their behavior, because of the things that they did, the choices that they made, how I grew up in foster care, you know, how I got into occultism, why I ended up getting attracted to occultism, and how kept getting darker and darker and darker practices. Finally, getting into African Caribbean traditions and brujeria and necromancy, Satanism, devil worship, even witchcraft, vile magics. Why I'm a necromancer should have been foretold years ago with all the deaths that surrounded my life. The Reaper was always around my life. He didn't have the balls to take my life, but he took all my friends, my family from me. And here I am, a necromancer. And the Reaper hates it because I'm no longer on his list. I've taken my destiny into my own hands. I become something unnatural. And if you think about what a necromancer is, it's something that's unnatural. It goes against the natural order of things. There is no good or evil, there's only the practices. And a lot of people forget what those practices are. Pure apple juice, the real deal, apple cider. Love it. So, anyways, while contemplating this, I started thinking about the world. I started thinking about my part time job at Dunkin' Donuts as the primary baker. I look at how many people I've trained on bake since taking my title, taking my position. How many fights and how many battles I've had to fight to be where I'm at. Do you think that Arnold Schwarzenegger would be where he is if he did not fight through the pain, through the tears, through the heartache, through everything, the hardships, the sacrifices? How about 50 cents? How about all these celebrities? You look up to them, but do you actually see what they go through due to their stardom? How many of these people come into stardom only to disappear and burn out, to commit suicide? How many people today do you see on social media that sit there and go, well, I want to be rich and famous? Well, have you thought about what that contemplates? What it actually means, the toll that it's going to take on you? It's like walking a path of necromancy or devil worship, becoming a Satanist. Not this watered down BS that you call the Temple of Satan, or the TST, or the Church of Satan, bureaucracy and hypocrisy. No, I'm talking about real Satanism, real devil worship. Do you think these individuals have the balls to sit there and go into a cemetery after hours? Do you think they have the gall to go against the mundane and sit there and tell the law to go fuck themselves? Do you think they have the balls to sit there and draw their own blood for rituals? No. They're too busy playing a part. They forget that all the grimoires and all the black magicians that came before them and what they went through. You see, Anton Xander LaVey declared the Church of Satan as being the first satanic order. That was a bullshit lie. Before Anton LaVey, There was Sloan, who had his own coven in Michigan. Or how about the Satanic Coven in England? Hmm. People forget about that. How about the Order of the Nine Angles, which was a traditional satanic order, a foundation that goes back to the 18th century? There's even rumors that it went back as far as the 17th century, but no evidence supports that. And I'll be the first to tell you that. I've traced Satanism back to the 18th century, and when it comes to the ONA, there is no evidence to support the fact that they go back to the 17th century. You can trace them back to the Hellfire Club of England, London region. You can trace them through the US, but not anything before that. Through archaeology, through folklore, through mythology, through the world's religions, you can trace demons back hundreds of thousands of years before Christianity was even a thought form in its mama's womb. But people forget that. Now, I look at people like Anton LaVey, who put out the first satanic philosophy. That really had an impact in my early years. I look at Alistair Knott, whose work really spoke to me on a spiritual level. I look at Magister Vokakalakis Oriax, who's no longer with us, who wrote the book, The Divine Black Flame of Satan. Incredible book. Spoke truth from a vampiric perspective. Or how about Myrmidon, Pontifex Maximus, who wrote 3 books: The Devil's Bible, The Devil's Disciple, and The Devil's Coven. Put into one book called Tentatio Diabolus. You can find that right on YouTube or Lulu. eBay, most likely too. Incredible book. Not one shred of regurgitated material in those 2 last books. Not one. Nothing of Anton Szandor LaVey's work, nothing. They made their own way. Amazing. Just amazing. Robert Johnson, Magister from the Church of Satan, wrote the Warlock's book. It's actually the brother book to the Satanic Witch that was forwarded years ago by Blanche Barton, who made the Church of Satan agnostic. She was actually Anton Szandor LaVey's successor before she stepped down and Peter H. Gilmore turned it purely atheistic. But people don't know this history. They don't know this history. Forgetfulness of past orthodoxies. Ironically, that's one of the cardinal sins that is put forth by Anton Szandor LaVey. The 9 satanic sins. You practice black magic. You call it forth. You call forth Satan. You call forth Beelzebub. You call forth Lucifer and Leviathan and Belial and all these other demons from older traditions, but yet you don't actually believe in them. That's like going by Luciferianism, Luciferian Satanism, and considering them nothing more than masks. masks that you can put on and wear. And the one verse that keeps coming up from the Bible is in Revelations chapter 22, verses 18 and 19, where it says, "If any man adds or takes away from this book, the same shall be done out of the book of life." That should actually be part of today's Satanism. It really should. Because the first unique version of Satanism that I saw outside of Anton Zandeleve and the other names that I just named off was Jeremy Adam Capps. Jeremy Adam Capps. And the funny thing is that his version of Satanism was in the Christian and Satanic Bible. The Christian and Satanic Bible. This is where he literally took Satanism and compared it to the biblical scriptures from the Bible to make it his own. It was ironic. I have the Bible itself from it. I have his work. I look at that every so often and I just laugh. It's like, I wonder how many of these Satanists today sit there and quote Satanism, quote this regurgitated material, and not one of these motherfuckers, not one of them has dared to commit the ultimate blasphemy and use the fucking Bible, the Christian Bible, like Jeremy Adam Capps did. And it's funny. It really is. It's really funny because you don't see that very often. In fact, you don't see it barely any. Okay, I mean, Espen Cayenne, who's written numerous books, and I do love this man's work. I love his work. And especially when it comes to the jinn and when it comes to the Nephilim. Because what is the Nephilim but the demigods of modern day age? You know, and it's funny because of the fact that when you look at this, he's the only other occultist that I know of that has actually done any work with the Bible and actually shown proof between the Quran, between the Hebrew and Jewish Bible, between the mainstream Bibles, and took it directly into the old scriptures, the old scrolls. I mean, hell, even I hate to bring the guy up, but even E.A. Coetting himself literally was one of the guys that put forth a reply to a dumbass that told him he was going to hell. That basically started quoting scripture and he replied in kind. It's hilarious to see the same cycle repeating itself like regurgitated materials. Does anybody remember Zoroastrianism? Does anybody remember the Dead Sea Scrolls? How about the Zohar? You know, how about the Talmud or the Jewish Haggadah? How about the Book of Tobit? You know, how about the poetical texts? Not many people have even heard of these. But what's ironic is people have heard the term Dante's Inferno, Paradise Lost, Homer's Odyssey. But yet, how many of you have actually read these classical plays and actually took the very definitions out of there and compared it to the Bible? How many people have actually read these classical plays, these texts, these scrolls, and realized that up until the 16th century, Beelzebub Lord of Flies, sat on the throne of the underworld as the father of the witches' Sabbath. The 3 days that their so called Messiah, Jesus of Nazareth, after his crucifixion, descended into the underworld according to the Gospels. The poetical text explains what happened down there and how he ended up with the keys. 16th century. Hmm. Ironic how he removed Beelzebub and put Satan on the throne. You see, forgetfulness of past orthodoxies. I think the issue is the fact that most people don't have the balls to go their own way. I mean, if people actually followed salmon, you'd notice that a school of salmon or any kind of fish would go with the current. But every so often, you get one fish that decides, I'm going against the current. Now, you remember I mentioned my coworker, the one that wanted to be a chef, wanted to be a baker, came to me, asked me to train her as a baker. I pointed her to the GM, the general manager. As long as she approves, I got no issues training you. Well, guess what? After the other baker got up and quit about a week ago, in less than a week ago, well, just about a week, really. As of, huh, actually, as of yesterday. Hmm, ironic. 1 week. It's ironic because of the fact that the very next day, somebody else trained her to be a baker. And this week, she only went and did the bake twice. Twice. The other 5 days, I was the baker, the opener. So I get to work this morning, and I had a surprise because somebody else was in the parking lot waiting for me. The new baker. Nobody told me I needed to train her. She was there when I got there. So I trained her this morning, and I got to train her tomorrow. And starting next week, she's on her own. Talk about out of the pan and into the fire. I mean, she was already overwhelmed this morning. Wait until she's by herself. But here's the thing. Day before yesterday, this former baker decided she wanted to get into the mix of things and become full of piss and vinegar. When you go up against somebody that is calm, collected, thought, of what words to speak, someone who likes to watch others suffer and torment, it's kind of amusing because I shut this girl down not once but twice in a single morning. The first time in front of the new shift leader, and the second time was in front of the AGM, the assistant general manager. And what's funny is not neither one of these higher ranks who are who are above me said a goddamn word. Not one of them. And the funny thing is, this girl's already on her last leg. Her last leg at this company. And she's refusing to learn to leave the attitude at the door. To leave other people's conversations out of her mouth. And it's funny because of the fact that now she's going to be the backup baker, just a backup baker. So if I don't show up or this new baker doesn't show up, she's called in. Ironic. Very ironic. Very ironic. Forgetfulness of past orthodoxies. Well, I went to the assistant general manager and I said, "Hey, I've been with the company for 5.5 years now, just about as of this November." I said, "I want to move up in rank." And he says, "You can't. You can't because I'm a part timer at this store, at this company, because I have my ministry and my professional, magical career on the other hand." So I looked right at them both and I told them, I said, "This is the legal law as it stands today." The last time it was updated was 2019. And by refusing me, you're in violation of the labor laws. Number one, you're discriminating me, uh, discriminating. Yeah, keep calling. I'm not picking up. I don't know you. Another moron that doesn't learn. If I haven't picked up by now, I'm not going to. You don't leave a voicemail. You don't. You know what I'm saying? What's the fucking point? So, anyways, I told this AGM and this shift leader, I said, number one, you're discriminating against somebody who is part time. Okay. Second of all, under equal rights, you are discriminating and denying somebody of making a living. And most importantly, moving up in a company, which is all against federal guidelines. You've already got 2 lawsuits against this company. Do you want a third? Well, the funny thing is, at that time, the teacher of general manager stepped in and said, he's not lying. Ouch. Not only is that a kick in the balls to the AGM and to this shift leader, this newly appointed shift leader, but it's taking that proverbial knife and giving it that extra twist. You know what I'm saying? In the back. So, again, if you don't learn your history, if you don't learn your rights, you're not going to get very far because nobody else is going to step up and do it for you. You have to be the one to do it yourself, especially if you want to get somewhere. So, this upper management and I had a little talk. And guess what? She's going to talk to the new regional manager. So, guess what? Now I'm going to be trained in a job that I'm already doing. I'm already doing. The only thing they need to do is just give me the fucking title. Well, that and the computer aspects, because that's one thing I never got to learn is the computer aspects. But still, I'm already doing 98% of a shift leader's job. I've already ran the day. I've already doing the red book. I'm already opening the stores. I'm already teaching all these employees. So why not just give me that fucking rank? You know what I'm saying? The fact that I have to sit there and utilize federal guidelines to force their hand, watch them squirm, you see, that's a pleasure for me. That's a pleasure for me because I like watching them squirm. I like making them squirm. It was like my first AGM or I should say, my first general manager when I came to this new company back in November of last year. Every time my shift ended, I'd look and I say, I quit. See you tomorrow. And why? Because it drove him nuts. Because we kept losing people around that time, which was hilarious. Okay, so for me to sit there and say I quit, only to say, "Hey, I'll see you tomorrow," it drove this guy nuts. It drove him insane. And like I said, that's a pleasure for me. Okay, so you got to find what works for you. I recommend that you learn your local laws, your local labor laws, especially if you're in the United States of America. I cannot speak for other countries, okay, just my own, okay, but I guarantee it that you have some form of federal guideline that will help you in that area, okay. Otherwise, you can go to a brewer or a brewer, a witch or a warlock, and have them create a wanga, a trabajo, and really define what spiritual warfare really is. Okay. So, I mean, when you think about your rights, when you think about the people that have gotten you where you are today, I want you to think about that. Okay. Because not only did this GM share some knowledge that I didn't know about, but I also taught him some things too. Interesting stuff, right? The fact that one of his successors tried to change the guidelines of how to make sandwiches that went against the policy in the videos and the way they teach you. Well, guess what? I stood my ground yet again and came out victorious. And again, like I said, that was the first confrontation with this coworker about a week ago. So, guess what? This is why I always tell you. This is why I always tell you whatever you preach, always back it up with multiple sources. It doesn't matter if it's federal guidelines, it doesn't matter if it's local, guidelines. It doesn't matter if it's civil or Napoleonic law. Know your rights. No one else is going to stick up for you. And always make yourself available for them when they question. What gives you the right to do that? To try to enforce that? Well, let's talk. Here's the penal code for this one. This is the penal code for that one. Yada, yada, yada. Guess what? Oh, you're left there speechless with your dick in your hands. Why? Because I just showed you no mercy and left you no room to wiggle. Okay? It is the same thing with religious doctrines. So many people believe that Christianity is right, that it's the only path to power. They think that every word that they say is golden. But yet, not one of them has traced those doctrines back. The sons and daughters of Belial goes back to ancient Sanskrit, specifically the Dead Sea Scrolls, the Scroll of Amory. Hmm. Let's see. Michael. Okay. Today, Hebrew variation. Okay. He who is like God. Go back 500 years ago. His name meant soul collector. Go back to ancient Sanskrit, and his name means face of love. Ooh, interesting, right? But yet, you go into works such as, let's go with Lucifer, Morningstar, the so called emperor of hell. Okay. Everybody talks about this one being because he's mentioned in so many grimoires. He's known as the light bearer, the bringer of light, the harbinger of air, the east. Hmm. But how many people have actually traced him back not only to the Latin light bearer, but how about the ancient Greek Phosphoros, the day star? How about the Roman Venus, the planetary figure? Ironic, right? But yet, if you go to the Necronomicon and you go back to the ancient scroll itself, the original text by the Mad Arab, you'll notice that in the time of Aquarius, Venus disappears around the 15th to the 19th of January and reappears in February around the same time. An entire month of not having Venus being seen anywhere in the cosmos. Hmm. Ironic, right? But yet, during this time, political upheavals and natural disasters increase. Warfare begins. Exhibit A, Russia invading Ukraine around this time. Again, here we are a year later. China. Hmm. Now North Korea. Hmm. Ironic, right? Always around January and February. They start kicking up dust. They're still attacking Trump, but yet nobody's focused on what needs to be done. Interesting. Forgetfulness of past orthodoxies. But yet nobody remembers that Christians, in the name of their God, butchered how many people? Hmm. Or how about the Catholics that waged war on the world? The Knights of Templar, the Crusades. Hmm. Okay. Let's talk about their God. Flooded the earth, killed everything on the face of the earth, except for two of everything, male and female. Wow. I don't know about you, but that shows me that their God is a mass murderer, just like the church, just like the Vatican. Anybody who supports that is associating with mass murderers. In fact, they could be charged in today's law guilty by association. Wow. Bet they didn't see that one coming. You see, the point here is that a man who does not learn from history is doomed to repeat it. You need to learn your history to be able to stick up for your own rights, to defend your own existence. You want to move up in a company, you want to earn respect, you got to fight for it. If you think your fight is done, think again. They have legions. You're only an individual. That's why I recommend that you become the Omega, the lone wolf. Show them that your bark and your bite is equally deadly. You see, I was talking with a former friend earlier today, and I was talking with my son's mother tonight while having dinner at her place. And I was reminded of my past. I was reminded of all those enemies who thought that they were better than me. Yet I'm still here and they're all gone. One turned Christian, one turned Wiccan, one became a Baptist, one ran and owned not one but two satanic orders, and now he's an now he's a born again Christian because he couldn't take the solitude. You see, every enemy that I've had has begged me for peace, begged me for mercy, either through reaching out to mutual friends or coming at me directly through Messenger or my DMs and email going, hey, I want peace. I give up. You see, there's a reason why you don't fuck with Omegas. There's a reason why you don't fuck with alphas. There's a reason why you don't fuck with with stigma males. And there's a hell of a big reason why you don't fuck with warlocks, marimberos or bokors, capilatas. Because we'll hand you your ass in a pine box. We don't fuck around. We'll treat you as a child and try to teach you a lesson. Our first instinct is not to curse you into damnation. But if you don't learn, we're going to have to deal with you. I mean, look at Ed Morrow. That guy pissed off so many people. Ellie Mercury did the same exact thing. Ellie Mercury ended up in prison. And Ed Morrow lost everything. Talk about forgetfulness of past orthodoxies. Nobody learns. They just keep going because they want to belong to something. They want to feel like they're important. You see, let me tell you, ladies, something. All those fantasies you have about a Prince Charming, shove it out the fucking airlock. No male is going to live up to your standards, your fantasy standards. You're not going to find that $1 million, Prince Charming who's going to sweep you off your fucking feet. You're not going to find somebody who's going to have a six-pack abs and fucking Arnold Schwarzenegger type look. They're not going to look like Christian Bale or Hugh Jackman. They're not going to look like, one of these muscle-bound guys. The you're just not going to get that type of thing. About 99% of you are going to end up settling in the end. So if you want to find true happiness, get rid of those fucking fantasies. Get into the real world. Just saying. Get into sorcery. I find it interesting that my son's mother constantly blames me for shit because shit happens. The funny thing is, she switched out two cats for a dog. Don't get me wrong, I love this dog. This dog may be needy. She may be, you know, 11 months old, just a puppy still. But she and I bonded. She's already taken to me. Everybody from her parents to my foster mother have all said, she's nuts. She was wrong. Yeah, the way she went about it was wrong. But the fact is, the landlord did give her permission to have one animal. And because she didn't get it in writing, it comes down to a he said, she said, which reverts back to the original lease. Sadly enough. Well, guess what? It doesn't matter if storms appear out of nowhere. It doesn't matter if shit just happens. The warlock is to blame. Why? Because that is the Christian mentality. That shit's not going to change. It's a fantasy. It's religious dogma. To Wiccans and pagans, a warlock is nothing more than an oath breaker, a betrayer, a liar. Why don't you ask my clients what kind of warlock I am? In fact, why don't you go to Bokor Leonard Elmera and ask him about his clients? Why don't you ask him where he is now? His page was shut down, and now he is back up in less than 4 months. And he's got more subscribers, more hits, more views, because that's his thing. The point is, where would he be? Where would Leonard? Let me put it to you this way: where would Bokor Leonard Elmera be without you? You're his subscribers, you're his followers, you're his fans. You're supporting him in his ways. How many loyal fans of How to Become a Living God are there in the world? The only reason E.A. Koetten is where he is today is because of you. You look at, like I said, Arnold Schwarzenegger. I just bought his hardcover book, pre-ordered it off Amazon for $21. Okay? Now you look at where he is today. He's going back to acting. This man started out poor. He became a soldier. He became a bodybuilder. Became Mr. Olympic or Mr. Olympia. How many times? For how many years? Nobody could touch him. Nobody could come close to him. But yet he made that sport fun. He took it to a whole new level. And then he got into acting. And he rose from there. Then he became a governor. You think he did this as a self-made man? No. That's because of you, his fans, those who voted for him, those who got him into office, those who got him all those Golden Globes, all those choice awards that he's gotten over the years. If it wasn't for you, he wouldn't be where he is. I look back over the last 14 years of my career since I came into the public eye. The only reason I have over 700 subscribers is because of you. You like what I put forth. I don't bullshit things. I don't water them down. I give you the cold, hard facts. I give you the sources, I give you the references, and I teach you what is, what was, and what's going to be. I'm an educator. I'm not just a practitioner. I would not have been initiated into the traditions that I'm initiated into if it wasn't for those who took a chance on me. If Edgar Cavall had not taken a chance on me, I would not have 3 to 4 essays published through his works, through his Anthropology of Sabbatica series. In fact, if I had not done what I have done, I wouldn't have had a pagan news, or I should say a newspaper, do an article on me. Yeah, it's in Russian. I don't speak Russian, but I'm learning. I'm learning. Just like I'm learning Chinese, just like I'm learning Indonesian, just like I'm learning Spanish. Because I get to grow, I get to mature, I get to evolve because of those who are helping me to do so. If I try to speak a word, say in Spanish, I have somebody that's actually Hispanic in background who sits there and goes, "It's pronounced this way." And it's humbling because it's thank you, but I don't stop for a moment to think that I've gotten where I'm at by myself. Yeah, a lot of this stuff that I've studied and I've learned, that's on me. That's on me because I chose to put my foot into these doors. I chose to continue this path. I chose to go into the ministry. But I don't stop for a moment in arrogance to think that I would not have had good teachers. Like the man down in Tucson that gave me a job. That gave me a job when my fiance at the time was being well, let's just say a 4 letter word. It starts with a C. And add in the let's just call her a bitch and leave it at that because that's what she was. She was a conniving bitch. Plain and simple. And you know what? This man didn't just give me a job. He let me hang out with his family. Got me into his religion. My next door neighbor got me into a different religion, the Caribbean traditions. Both of these two got me into the Caribbean traditions. Pelo Mayambi, Santeria. And you know what? I still think of them today. Wonder where are they? What are they doing? Because I lost track of them when I left Tucson. But you know what? I forged new friends. I forged new allies. Had an apostolic that suggested the ministry to me. Helped me become a minister. Robert Greene's work inspired me a lot. Anton Zander LaVey's work inspired me a lot. Arnold Schwarzenegger, you know, bodybuilding, that single-minded, that pursuit to be beyond the pain, beyond the exhaustion. That was an inspiration. Steven Seagal, I'm a huge fan. He was actually my very first movie that I watched was a Steven Seagal movie called Hard to Kill. It's where he played Storm, a cop that gets his family ends up getting murdered by a politician and a bunch of gangsters. Gets shot in the head, ends up in a coma for like 7 years, wakes up in 1990s, goes on a killing spree. you know, you get into things like the Hulk, the very first Hulk, or go back to the first occult movie I ever saw was Friday the 13th. Jason Voorhees loved that demonic being. Got into, witchcraft because of Julian Sands, the actor who perished in the wilderness earlier this year, where he was found. That man is why I got into witchcraft, why I got into sorcery. I loved the way he spoke, the way he had that old speech patterns. His words were chosen specifically. There was just something about his character that always fascinated me. And I'll always be grateful for that. I will always be grateful to my teachers, to my guides, to all those who helped me get to where I'm at. But I will never forget that it's because of them that I'm where I'm at. It's because of you liking my work, being loyal fans, being loyal subscribers, followers, that I'm where I'm at today. But don't allow yourself to fall into that false state of power where you have delusions of grandeur. Because I agree with what Arnold Schwarzenegger said. There's no such thing as a self made man. I look at my childhood. I probably would have followed in my family's footsteps, my biological family's footsteps, if I had not been taken out of their home, away from them, and put into foster care. If my foster mother hadn't raised me, given up a lot, sacrificed for me, I probably wouldn't be who I am today. She doesn't give a shit what religion I'm in, as long as I'm happy. That's a role model. That's somebody to look up to. Sylvester Stallone, huge fan. Dolph Lundgren, huge fan. Jason Statham, huge fan. Same person calling again. Talk about slow learners. Just like the world. The world changes, but people stay the same. So, anyways, I get up to work at 3 a.m. So, I just wanted to jump on here and just say, hey, forgetfulness of past orthodoxies is not a good thing. Take it from me. It's not. Because I used to be blind just like everybody else. Till I got into where I'm at. And you know what? I'm better off now than I was 25 years ago. Just saying. So have a good day. Have a good night wherever you are in the world. And remember two key factors. Whatever you practice, always, always back it up with numerous sources. That means whatever you preach, back it up. Give references, give sources. Okay? Doesn't matter what the topic is, back it up and stand your ground. And always make yourself available to the public because you are responsible for the things that you say and do. If you like what you see, hit the notification button so you don't miss another video. If you really like what you see, feel free to subscribe. Choice is yours. Always has been. All right? I'm out.